Welcome to FOBtv, the future of business. I'm your host, Kevin Benedict, and I want to thank each of you for joining us today. I'm really excited to be able to introduce our guest today, Gabby Czertok. Gabby, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Gabby is running a fascinating organization that we're going to learn about today that actually matches large global companies with startups in Israel. So we'll get into the details of that very soon. Before we do that, Gabby, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm the founder of The Builders, founder and CEO of The Builders, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. But in my background, I'm a coder. I was coding when I was 9 years old and programming throughout kind of my until I guess I was 21 or 22. Lawyer by education, and before doing this, I was a CEO of a startup in the water industry. So very different, but very interesting lessons learned from how the water industry, which is probably the slowest one in the world, and how corporates were just a little bit faster than that.
Yeah, but in Israel, water is critical, and that's always a big issue, isn't it?
Yeah, Israel's kind of pretty much an island in a desert, and although this year I think we're reaching pretty much very high levels of desalination, so we're going to have a lot of fresh water coming from the sea, desalinated into drinkable water, which is kind of new for Israel, which we've been dependent on one major lake and a lot of rain and efficient use of our resources.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out another question for you here. In what ways is law and coding similar or dissimilar?
I think it's exactly the same, actually. It's pretty much if this, then that, or that. If this word appears here and this means this together with that, it's going to be like this. And then looping, it's very, very similar. Basically understanding what's behind the scenes and what are things made of. I think that's part of, personally for me, my passion, and very interesting to see is really how do things work really? How, when you take something apart, what are the parts that make it work? What's connected to where? And that connects a lot to law, it connects a lot to coding, it connects a lot to working with corporations and big companies.
Well, Gabby, I reached out to you because I was just fascinated by the work that you're doing there with an organization called The Builders. And you founded that organization. Talk to the audience out there and tell us a little bit about that organization.
So basically, we're looking at what's the best way for corporates, Fortune 100 companies, to work with startups in an efficient way. And there are a lot of questions and a lot of challenges on both sides. Some startups say, I don't want to work with a big corporate. It's too big for me. When I'll be big, I'll be able to go to the Fortune 100 company. But until then, I'll sell to all their small competitors. It can be on the corporate side saying, I don't want to work with startups because it's too complicated, too many unknowns. I don't really know how this works. There's all kind of questions. I remember an example when someone on the corporate side asked me, they said, the startup just asked me, what should we pay them? And they said, the startup said, I don't have a business model yet. Whatever you have, any budget you have, I'll work with it and I'll take that money. How much do you have? And the person at corporate said, that's not a normal conversation. What should we do? I said, okay, well, what's your business model? I said, we're flexible. Whatever you want, you tell us how you want to pay and what you want to pay. And for the corporate, that's crazy. And for the startup, it's my first customer. I can learn a lot from them. Let's hear what they have to say. So even just the kind of communication, understanding the differences in language and different approach, sometimes you need help and you need translation. We say we translate from English to American and from Hebrew to Israeli because sometimes they're not the same. We have a lot of delegations coming to visit us. So we had in the pre-COVID world, we had a lot of delegations coming from all around the world to visit us. And we had a group from China. They told us in China, if you don't like what the startup's doing, you tell them it's a nice idea. We had a French group who said superb, c'est superbe. If you don't like it, that's the way to say superb. American group who said it's fascinating. It's a fascinating idea. If you don't like what the person's doing, it's so ambiguous, it doesn't really mean anything.
Yes.
And again, Israelis are very, very direct, and entrepreneurs also are always looking for any hint of sign of interest because they're always getting no's from people, looking for any sign of interest. If someone showing any little excitement that maybe it's a yes. So if they hear someone saying it's a superb idea, really nice, fascinating, we'll get back to you, come back next quarter. he's booking a flight. He or she, the entrepreneur, will be booking a flight and getting on a plane to come back next quarter, when it actually meant get out of my office and I don't want to see you ever again. So, and in many cases, it's even understanding and kind of crossing the culture between the startups and the corporate culture, or just international cultures. People saying one thing but saying it in a polite way or wrapped in some way. That's really hard to figure out. What is the meaning. And startups most efficient, or most, I think, most challenged, they don't have time, they don't have money. So if you waste any of those, you lose a lot of chance for success. So if someone really polite in a corporate and tells them it's a really nice idea, and let's talk again next quarter, let's talk next year, it can take the startup, or even worse, it's a nice idea, but it'd be really nice if you change something small. So now you have terms for the deal also. So it's not only the deal, you have the terms. So startup goes back and changes it, and the person's not answering his emails anymore, but I don't know, maybe there's some problem with their email server. Let me keep on sending emails. I'll keep working my product. And that's a real life example of one of the entrepreneurs who came to me and said that we think one of the partners has a problem with their spam filter because no one's answering my emails. So it's even sometimes that level of understanding. You need to figure out, why are people not answering? What's missing there?
So talk to us, Gabby, about what the role is of the Builders organization.
So we help Fortune 100 companies make money or save money, increase growth, reduce risk by using technology. So working with companies like Coca-Cola, Mercedes, and Warner Media, and others. And the main challenge there is, how can we make everyone's life more efficient, save time and engagement with startups, find the right startup, which is a big part of it, and then be able to work with it, which is even a bigger part of it. Figuring out how to align the startup in the right way that it's going to fit into procurement or legal or the regular processes. Help the startup figure out what's the best way to approach a corporate. We had today a meeting with talking about pricing, and is it better to do annual or monthly for a specific deal and a specific corporate? So there are a lot of these nuances in the process, and we have three main vehicles. The first one is our commercialization programs. So it's a new concept we invented in 2014. Our first one was the bridge with Coca-Cola, and we built it together with Coca-Cola, and learned a lot of lessons in the process. Basically, a 7-month program, post-accelerator, post-incubator, for mature companies who've raised money, raised a few $1 million, have working products, and are ready to go hit the market and sell. They probably have first customers already, and now they're ready to work with a Fortune 100 company. And in this 7-month process, we have already 63 companies that went through our program, who did 260 pilots and 56 license agreements in the last 6.5 years. And as I mentioned, we did Coca-Cola, Mercedes, Warner Media, and Walmart. And now the second vehicle is our R&D innovation. So we found that in some cases, things take more time. They need longer process. It's not a 7-month process. In Coca-Cola's case, it may be, what's the packaging of the future? What's the sweetener of the future? So how can you even figure out what's the right process to fit into that? So sometimes it's a molecule working on today. It needs to be in 3 months something else. It needs to be in 2 years something else. It needs to be in 5 years something else. So we're helping and supporting some of our partners with the longer term R&D, using knowledge and insights that we got from the commercialization program. And the third one is the Builders Fund, which I'm it's still a surprise. So we'll keep it for people's imagination.
So in what way do you help large multinational companies actually discover new technologies or interesting emerging technologies?
So first of all, is figuring out what do you need, and what do you need can actually be solved with technology. In some cases, in the first years, we say startups are a solution for everything. There's startup for everything, and now sometimes we say, don't go to a startup. You have a good big vendor. Work with a big vendor. It actually makes sense in this case. So we try to be supporting advisors. We have very, very smart people on the corporate side we're working with. So senior executives who are tons and tons of experience, and our job is to help them find what are the needs, and help them discover the needs in a way that can be finding the right startup and right technology. So we have our own methodology, pretty unique methodology about finding the startups. Israel, for those who don't know, is a very tight-knit network. It's a very small country, 9 million people, with the highest amount of startups per capita in the world. And the way we find startups, the way we discover them, is using this list curated from the corporates. We share it with 100 trusted partners, and they can refer startup to us. So startups can apply. Their first screening is to find the person who's an accelerator, incubator, investor, angel investor, VC, etc., and have them refer the startup to to our program, to our platform. Then we have hundreds of people review. So this year we had 500 people from our corporate partners review the startups, and they gave us 4,300 reviews. So a very high level of engagement. Then they fly over, and so we really work hard in selecting. We select the 12, and then we work with those 12 for 7 months to get them through the process and to have higher success rates. And so today it's 7 out of 10 do a pilot, 3 out of 10 get a license agreement. And encouraged by people like the CIO of Coca-Cola, Barry Simpson, and executives in Mercedes and Warner Media, Pete Scott, and Sabina Schoenert, a lot of very smart people there. They pushed us and challenged, okay, how do we move on to the next step from the proof of concept? How do we move to the next level? So we coined a new term, which we call proof of scale. And how do we measure the proof of scale? What's the right way to get to scale? And then we helping the companies go on to those steps. And I think and these days, that's our main challenge, is to be able to really help push things and help them grow. And not only like Barry from Coca-Cola says, he says he has more pilots than Delta has in Coca-Cola, because everyone's doing pilots. So how do you get moving from pilot to grow later? And we're really interesting process to go through.
So talk to me, Gabby, about the impact of this worldwide pandemic around COVID-19. How's that impacting entrepreneurs and the entrepreneur environment?
So I think it's really dependent on what's the target market. Are aiming to sell to Europe, or aiming to sell to Asia, or aiming to sell to North America, and then it's really different. It really depends where your target market is and how that market's being affected. I think some markets are already almost can imagine what the future will look like without the pandemic, and some markets are, oh my God, it's still here, in a really bad stage. So I think that the first thing is really understanding the markets. So some entrepreneurs are shifting to markets where things look different, or maybe their product can be used in a different way. Some entrepreneurs are shifting their technology or the solution to something that can help in working from home, moving to work in a more efficient way, etc. And some entrepreneurs are going to struggle getting financing, because money is already more scarce, and it's going to be harder to get.
Got it. Gabby, I want to thank you so much for kind of pulling back the curtains and sharing with us the entrepreneur world in Israel and your role in it, and the role of builders and how innovation works. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. This is a pleasure. Thank you very much.